Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto Was the Son of Kaguya Otsutsuki. If you guys enjoyed this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. Slowly the days had turned into weeks, those weeks into months and those months into years, and before he knew it, Naruto was over 3,000 years old. He'd seen mountains crumble, towns and villages rise and fall, even watched the slow turn of evolution. Kaguya was right when she said that humanity would turn chakra into a weapon. Not even 50 years later after Hagoromo's death, the first signs of ninjutsu appeared. Spurred on by the sightings and rumors of battles from Indra and Asura, humanity perverted ninju into a violent art form that became the new weapon to have. Using hand signs, commonly called hand seals, to supplement for their lack of instinctive control over their chakra, the rest of the world learned to manipulate the elements, much like Hagoromo could, giving the world a new weapon to conquer with. The hand seals appear to be like seals for the human body, directing the chakra where to go and what to do. Elemental manipulation was a place where Naruto saw elements of his own chakra. Pure elemental manipulation was used to gain better control and recognition, with their alien elements, not a style of attack, apparently. It was hard to gain control over the elements, and nobody could be bothered to try. Naruto had watched as they perverted Hagoromo's dream of peace into a weapon to wage war, though Naruto had gone on a rage like many others might have over seeing their siblings' dream crushed in such a way. Naruto had time to resign himself to the fact that it would eventually happen, having watched the slow progression. However, there was something he had discovered that made him want to bring Hagoromo back to life, just to kick his ass. His own abilities had been copied. When his chakra had been introduced to the people of the world, so had his abilities. It had taken years before they had shown up, but they were there. Multiple people had started to turn up wielding his abilities. His ability to use sub-elements had been spread out across the world, and the people who had turned up in started to group together. His ability to manipulate his body also spread around the world as well, the people that had turned up in grouping together, much like those that gained the ability to use sub-elements. Thankfully though, it appeared that only one tier 3 element, dust, appeared. Naruto didn't even think about what would happen if people got tier 3 elements from him. His eyes, healing and his chakra construct's ability didn't appear in anyone thankfully. Naruto theorized that his eyes were more of a physical trait than one caused by chakra, hence it would only activate in blood relatives. Naruto was undecided if no one got his healing or chakra constructs. The world did have the ability to heal one another and themselves, but not passively. Similarly, Naruto had seen what the rest of the world called chakra scalpels and chakra threads. Naruto was unsure if they were his abilities, but as far as he knew, every chakra user could use them, so he was unsure if that was their chakra being able to do that naturally, or if it was the result of that ability being stretched over the world. Regardless of what happened with his abilities, when Naruto first found out of the world not only perverting his brother's dream, but then using his own abilities to do it, let's just say that the land of wind wasn't always a desert. In the end, he decided not to end all life on Earth. His 3,000 years of life hasn't been all bad. During the time, Naruto had managed to make contact with almost all of the original summons that he and Hagoromo had originally created, as well as some that Hagoromo must have created after they parted ways. Several of the summons had permitted him to sign their summoning scrolls. Many of summons had been ecstatic to find out that he was still alive. Though many of them had lost their founding members and thus didn't know who he was, or were enemies of some of the summons whose scroll he had already signed, and therefore wouldn't allow him to sign their scrolls. Naruto didn't even know how they started fighting, but decided to let them handle it, unless it got too out of control. Naruto had also been watching over his own descendants as well as Hagoromo's. He was sad to say that he was mostly unimpressed. The Hyuga had become arrogant with their eyes, believing that because they had the Byakugan, they were invincible. What sickened Naruto the most though, was that he found out they enslaved the branch family members with a caged bird seal. If Naruto hadn't loved Mushia, he would have wiped them of the earth for the seal. Thankfully, other than their arrogance and seal, the Hyuga had mostly turned out well, though Naruto still rarely visited them. Just because he accepted that his son's descendants were enslaving their own family doesn't mean he'd like, so he kept his distance from the clan of Byakugan users, only popping in once every 1 or 200 years. The Uchiha and Senju were still fighting. Granted, it wasn't still about who was Hagoromo's successor, but it was still fighting. Both clans had a large territory, each causing their borders to clash in the middle of the Land of Fire. This also caused many small skirmishes which eventually led to war between the two clans, with the Uchiha having allies in the Hagoromo clan, ironically, and the Senju have allies in the form of the Uzumaki clan, once again ironic, though the Uzumaki tried not to get involved. Their help involved sending the Senju seals to aid them in battle. From strengthening weapons to explosive tags, the Uzumaki made up for their lack of help in the fighting, with the amount and quality of their seals. The Uzumakis were the only relatives of Naruto that he could say he was proud of. While not wanting to fight, they still helped their allies. That was something Naruto could respect. Though Naruto could tell the Uzumaki would prefer if there was no fighting, they would however fight viciously if they had to. Naruto was quite happy that the Uzumaki had decided to specialize in Fuinjutsu. While not one of the most exciting of arts for the most part, Fuinjutsu defiantly had the most potential out of the other arts. So it pleased Naruto to see that same art protecting his descendants, even if Naruto had to sometime help them when it came to some theories, though he was in disguise when he went to visit. The only part he was disappointed in was that the Uzumaki were reduced to work as mercenaries, though in this time, almost everyone was a mercenary. So he let that slide. Throughout the millennia that Naruto had been alive, he had traveled around the world, taking in the sights and sounds of the elemental nations. He had kept up his training, of course, creating new techniques and expanding on his old ones. He'd even managed to discover new elements. Granted, they were tier 3, and therefore incredibly destructive, but he did it. As it turned out, no one knew of him as the brother of Rakuto Sanin. In fact, the rest of the world wasn't even aware that one of the most famous people in history had a brother. Apparently his brother had never told people exactly how he defeated the 10 Tails, and as far as Naruto knew, Hagoromo hadn't recorded what happened in any form. Naruto wanted it to stay this way. He wanted a peaceful life, though he had resigned to the fact that it never would be. Going around announcing to the world that he was the brother of the Sage of Six Paths would not only make people look at him weird, but also draw unwanted attention to himself. It was to this reason why he refrained from using his control over the elements on a large scale. For small things, it was fine, but unless he was really pushed to his limits by a foe, which he doubted, or was angry, he'd refrain from doing anything that might make himself stand out. He'd usually take out his foes with his blades, which were always strapped around his forearms like braces, or his unarmed combat skills, which included his enhanced strength, and sometimes using chakra constructs if he felt like it. Because of believing that ninjutsu was a perversion of chakra, Naruto has never made any attempt to learn any of the jutsus that the rest of the world used. Why would he? Any elemental attacks thrown at him, he could deflect with a thought, and any physical attacks wouldn't get very far when he could literally destroy mountains with his enhanced strength. All in all, Naruto felt like ninjutsu was actually taking chakra backwards. He could do what the rest of the world was doing easily. He could even take it up a level. Naruto honestly wondered how the rest of the world could value their precious ninjutsu when he could destroy it with a thought. Though Naruto had no problem with any of the other arts such as Taigen Bukijutsu or any of those techniques, they had all existed hundreds of years ago, but were known simply under different names, so Naruto didn't really have a problem with any of them. Though he did have a problem with Junjutsu. The ability to control someone against their will reminds Naruto too much of his mother's Mugen Tsukuyomi. Naruto sighed as he continued walking, making no sound as his feet struck the ground one after the other. He was wearing a plain brown cloak with a hood to cover the clothes underneath, choosing to go for stealth more than show. He was currently walking through the border of Uchiha and Senju territories, and while he wasn't nervous about being in the vicinity of any of the clan members, he didn't like being in their presence very long. It always reminded him of his promise to Hagoromo. For several hundred years after he first made that promise, Naruto had watched over the Uchiha and Senju clans, hoping that one of each or maybe even just one from either, would look past their hatred over violence and strive for peace. There had been several close calls over that time, but all of the ones he had seen had either lost a sibling afterwards, and began to hate, or had died before he could help. After that, he had just given up hope that there would ever be a change in either clan. Naruto was currently making his way to the south of Fire Country. There were great beaches this time of year. Stood behind me on purpose, didn't you? Naruto was knocked out of his thoughts by a loud voice echoing through the trees. It was loud and irate, most likely frustrated from not being able to complete something. It's so obvious you're trying to distract me. I can't even take a leak if someone is standing behind me. That's how aware of my surroundings I am. That was definitely weird. With his curiosity now piqued, Naruto made his way over to the source of the noise. His curiosity was satisfied when he spied two boys on the opposite side of a river to him. Both had black hair, though one had short spiky hair while the other's hair was flat on his head. The spiky-haired one was wearing a pure black kneeling taori with white pants, while the other with flat hair wearing pinstriped kimono pants and kimono shirt. The two boys appeared to be talking with the one with flat hair, antagonizing the one with spiky hair into outbursts of anger. This actually reminded him of himself and Hagoromo when they were little, him being the flat-haired one, needlessly annoying the spiky-haired one, Hagoromo, causing him to get angry at him. Naruto could only give a wistful smile at the two boys. He wished he could go back to that, to the monastery, to when he was kid with Hagoromo and his mother, but he couldn't and never would be able to. That was something he had learned long ago. Naruto was snapped out of his thoughts by the soft tapping of feet on water. Water walking. He thought that was something else he had picked up, though Naruto had learned it before anyone else and the world recreated it. The flat-haired boy was checking on a body in the middle of the river, standing on top of the water. Both boys talked for a bit before the spiky-haired one turned back, while the flat-haired boy was now on his side of the river, and was also walking away, most likely to wherever he lived. Naruto hid himself in the brush, using his millennia-old knowledge to hide himself from the sight and senses of the child. Once he felt safe, Naruto let out a breath and relaxed. This was interesting. "A Senju and Uchiha," he said out loud as no one would hear him. He knew who both of them were. The boys were wearing the clothes of their clans, if they both knew that Naruto didn't know. Talking together without hostility with a member of the Hagoromo clan washing up near them both. If that isn't a sign, then I don't know what is. "Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha," he said, remembering the names they gave to each other. They will both be names to remember. It was settled. He would stay here to see how both of them developed, perhaps maybe even train them a bit if they didn't die. This meant that his trip to the beaches of Fire Country would have to wait. Naruto let out another sigh. He liked the beach. Why did the Senju and Uchiha decided to stop being assholes now? Why not years ago? Naruto decided to not look a gift horse in the mouth, and just take what he could get. He didn't want to have to wait another 3 millennia to happen. It was 3 days before the two boys appeared at the same time again. Hashirama was sitting by the side of the river when Madara approached from behind, both of them in the same clothes as the day before. Naruto remained hidden on the other side of the river, bent down hiding in the brush, listening in on their conversation. Hashirama's brother had died apparently, along with 3 of Madara's own. This made Naruto release a small sigh of sorrow, not enough for either boy to hear thankfully. During these times, everyone was a warrior, a fighter. Children learned to fight before they could walk. Naruto had once seen a clan to the far east send a 7-year-old child out to fight against full-grown men of an opposing clan. The child was slaughtered, but provided a distraction long enough for the more skilled and seasoned fighters to take down the real enemy. Naruto had to restrain himself from destroying that clan. Hashirama's brother's fate was not a rare one. Every day hundreds of boys just like him are sent out to kill their clan's enemies. It's only the lucky or skilled ones that come back. That is the sad truth. Focusing back on the conversation, Naruto managed to catch both of the children, talking about wanting to stop the fighting. Before both of Hagoromo's descendants had stopped talking, the two of them were now just looking out over the water. While they did this, Naruto weighed up his options. He could not do anything. Let the two of them forge their own destinies, making their own mistakes. Let them both see if they had what it takes to see their dreams to the end. Or help them personally. Naruto hasn't had much human interaction since Hagoromo's death. The perversion of chakra only made his human interaction shrink that much more. Talking to these two children would actually be a massive step for him, even if it was only for the day. Naruto let out a sigh when he realized there was only one option. He needed to help the Uchiha and Senju child. His promise to Hagoromo wouldn't let him leave. He had a chance to fulfill his promise to Hagoromo, and he would make sure it happened. With his thoughts decided, Naruto extended his legs, jumping high into the air, over the brush and river, and onto the other side of the river where Hashirama and Madara were. Both boys were immediately on guard when he landed, legs and arms extended into their clan's fighting stances, though judging by the obliviousness of the two, neither of them knew what their enemies' fighting stances looked like, and hopefully it would stay that way so he could work with them. Naruto straightened up and brushed some imaginary dust of his cloak with his hand, before he turned to the two children to the side of him, his hood up obscuring his face. "Relax, I'm not going to hurt you," the ancestor of the Hyuga and Uzumaki said nonchalantly. Immediately, Hashirama relaxed. "Oh, cool," he said with a smile. Madara smacked him on the back of the head for that comment. "You stupid idiot, why did you believe him?" Madara screamed. He could be lying, waiting for Yus to lower our guard so he could kill Yus. As he finished his rant, Hashirama then sat on the ground with a small rain cloud hovering over his head. Naruto gave a small amused smile before he cleared his throat to get Hashirama's and Madara's attention. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad. "I'm not going to hurt you," Naruto repeated. "In fact, I want to help you both, by training both of you." "Why should we believe you?" Madara accused, instantly suspicious. "And how do we know we can trust you or you can teach us anything?" Naruto gave out a small chuckle at Madara's accusations. "Because if I wanted to harm you, you would both be dead," he said simply. It was true and he wasn't going to sugarcoat. "As for trusting, have I hurt you yet?" Madara lowered his guard hesitantly, but Naruto could still see he was ready to spring into guard at a moment's notice. "Take off your hood then," the Uchiha said. "If you want to help us, take it off." Indra's descendant was staring at Naruto's hood, as if he could move it with his mind. Even Hashirama was looking up from his position on the ground, interested in the newcomer's features. Naruto simply shrugged. "Okay." With that, Naruto lowered the hood that shadowed his face to reveal his bright white hair that trailed down into the cloak, and a blindfold that covers his eyes, though it was frayed enough for so that both boys could see the whiteness of Naruto's eyes. The blindfold Naruto was wearing was to prevent any sort of links between him and the Hyuga, as he would have to explain why none of them recognized him, or why there weren't any records of birth. After a while, he learned that the blindfold, plus the visible whites of his altered Byakugan, gave off the impression that he was blind, which made people underestimate him. After all, who would expect a blind man to know how to fight? Naruto used his advanced. Naruto had used his ability to manipulate his bones, an ability that he had discovered several years after Hagoromo's death, and was used by a clan in the Land of Water, to hide his horns, making it easier to blend in. After all, horns were quite noticeable. Hashirama and Madara were taken back by the blindfold, having not expected their acquaintance to be blind. Madara recovered from the surprise of the blindfold first. How would you be able to teach us to do anything? In case you haven't noticed, you're blind. How can you be a shinobi when you can't even see where you're going? Madara said, a bit bluntly. Surprisingly, it was Hashirama that spoke. Then how come you couldn't sense him? You're the one who was so aware of his surroundings he couldn't take a leak if someone is behind him. Hashirama said with a small snigger and a smile. Naruto also had a small smirk at the comments. Madara rounded on the still-seated Hashirama, and then proceeded to yell at him. Shut up Hashirama, you didn't sense him either so I will. Madara's yells were cut off when he felt something sharp poke him in the back of the neck. He froze immediately. He had felt points in the back of his neck before. It was usually from when his father, Uchiha Tajime, beat him in a spar, and had a kunai to his neck. Looking down at Hashirama's face, he hoped that he could get a picture of what was going on from his new friend's face. Looking down, Madara saw Hashirama's eyes open wide surprise, which let the Uchiha know all he needed. Apparently the newcomer was now behind him with a kunai or something pointy to his neck. Now, Naruto said in his ear. Are you sure there's nothing I can teach you? Naruto asked with mock curiosity. There might be something. Madara replied, trying to keep his voice light. He felt the sharp point remove itself from his neck, and Madara slowly turned around, only to see the cloaked-wearing figure standing back where he was before, looking like he hadn't done anything. Now, how about introductions? The man replied as if nothing had happened. My name is Naruto. The newly named Naruto introduced himself. Hashirama. The flat-haired boy said cheerily, happy to introduce himself to the blind man. Madara. The Uchiha said hesitantly, still not fully trusting the man. Why should he? The man comes out of nowhere offering to train the two of them for no reason. It had suspicious written all over it. Before I agree to anything, the Uchiha's suspicious attitude back up. Why would you train us? Out of all the people in the world to train, why us? And how did you move so fast even though you're blind? Madara questioned. Naruto gave a sad smile before answering. I made a promise to someone that involves training people to help the world. I overheard what the two of you were talking about, heard the conviction in your voice, and decided that I would train you to fulfill the promise I made. Naruto then gained a cheeky smile. If you want to find out how I move so fast, you'll have to beat it out of me. He replied to Madara's question, before he took up a loose taijutsu stance with a grin. Either come at me with the intent to kill or not at all. Both Madara and Hashirama both then took up their respective stances, ready to attack their new sensei, however both of them wouldn't go all out. He was blind after all, he can't be that good. They didn't know how wrong they were. Half an hour later, both Hashirama and Madara were laying on the rocky shores of the river. They had been skipping rocks across, tired and sweaty. They would have been bruised and broken too, if their new sensei hadn't healed them when they finished. Both of them were sure that Naruto was somehow reading their minds. He seemed to be able to read their styles like a book. Every one of their moves or combinations seemed to be countered by their white-haired sensei. He seemed to move as fast as lightning yet be as versatile as water. He blocked every punch, countered every kick. He even made their jutsu useless, simply too fast for them to aim. And in the event they did manage to successfully pull on off, he simply dodged out of the way. It was amazing, yet at the same time, it was frustrating. So, Naruto said, a glint of laughter in his gaze. Do you want me to teach you both, or do you need more convincing that I can teach you things? It was incredibly amusing to see two prodigies so soundly defeated, even if he was a millennia-old male that had so much chakra that it was on the level of the Biju, with enough power to level a continent. Still, Hashirama and Madara didn't know that, as far as they were concerned, they just got beaten up for half an hour by Blind Man. That was about the age of most of the people they use for training. If Naruto hadn't had millennia to keep his emotions under control, he would have burst out laughing. Okay, Hashirama said, sitting up, wincing as he did so. I think you can teach us some things. I definitely felt several things I can work on. He winced again as he rubbed his sore ribs. Damn, why do Naruto's kicks have to be so hard? By this time, Madara had also sat up as well, managing to withhold a wince unlike Hashirama. Naruto looked at his possible pupils, his quite hurt pupils. He sighed, why do people have to be so fragile? He was toning down his strength. Stepping forward, Naruto squatted down on his heels in between Hagoromo's descendants, bright green chakra coating his hands, something both boys recognized as medical chakra. Naruto moved his hands forward and a hand hovering in front of either boy's chest, before he flexed his chakra, sending it into their bodies to begin healing. His chakra traveled around their bodies and began identifying their injuries. Fractured ribs, bruised muscles and bones as well as torn muscles were several problems in both boys' bodies, nothing serious or life-threatening. Their injuries were those that could be gained from rough training. Other than that, both boys were as healthy as they should be, no sickness, old injuries or any signs of malnutrition. Naruto assessed all that in a second, his experience with using the technique on various people before coming into play. Pushing his chakra into the injured areas, Naruto watched from his mind's eye as all the injuries healed, fractures knitted back together, torn muscles reattached themselves and bruised body parts healed over. Hashirama and Madara were in shock at their sensei's skill in medical chakra. Their injuries would normally take an experienced Iryonin several minutes to heal the both of them, yet this man was healing the both of them within seconds. It was unbelievable. Hashirama especially seemed amazed by his sensei's ability. He had always wanted to learn to heal, but his ability in ninjutsu, specifically his Kekkei Genkai, Mokutin, his sub-elements made him too valuable to be wasted doing the work of someone without skill, as his father would say. Essentially, his father was saying that he was too skilled not to have at the front. Perhaps Naruto could train him in medical techniques. Hashirama would love to learn some. Madara was now reevaluating the man in front of him. Originally, when he had showed he was blind, Madara had been incredibly skeptical that Naruto could even run, let alone fight. That was then proved wrong when the white-haired man proceeded to beat both him and Hashirama up for 30 minutes. He was hailed as a prodigy in his clan. He could take down full-grown men with twice as much experience as him, and yet he was utterly humiliated by the man that was currently healing him with medical skill that far exceeds anything he had seen his clan's Iryonin could perform. So, Naruto began. "Do you two want me to train you both?" he asked. This would decide how he went on from here. They could either decide to let him train them, or they could decline. Naruto could train one of them, but he would rather train both of them. If he could train both of them, he would be fulfilling his promise to Hagoromo, and it would be a massive weight off his chest. Naruto always felt like he failed his brother by not completing his wish. It had been 3 millennia, and there was no progress with either side. But if he could get the two of them to agree to him being their sensei, he would finally feel like he was accomplishing something. Hashirama nodded excitedly. It would be fun to have a sensei to help him. In his clan, you usually had to train yourself. If you were lucky, you could have an older brother or father to help you practice in perfect techniques. But since his father was the clan head, he rarely had time to help him. He was busy organizing the clan, practicing attacks, and honing his own skills. Hashirama was the eldest child in his family, and therefore had no older brother to practice with. He could usually find some other clan members that were trained to spar with him, but they would refrain from hurting the clan head's son. But with Naruto as his sensei, he could have someone that he wouldn't hold back and help him advance further. Naruto might even have a way to achieve peace in the world. Perhaps he could get advice. Madara stiffly nodded as well. He still wasn't quite sure about Naruto, but he was smart enough to realize that after that fight that Naruto could kill them without trying. He even healed them after the fight. Madara was now quite aware that Naruto was mostly likely telling the truth about wanting to train them, but that didn't mean that he would trust him like Hashirama was doing. He would accept Naruto's offer until he proved untrustworthy. "Good," Naruto said happily as he stood up. Hashirama and Madara followed him swiftly. "I'm glad that both of you accepted." His face then turned from happy to serious. When he spoke, Madara and Hashirama had to suppress a shudder from the feeling he gave off. It wasn't killing intent. Both had been under Kai enough to be able to tell what it was, but it was similar. What Naruto was doing was actually an altered form of killing intent, while normal Kai was the user's desire to kill mixed with their power that was then pressured onto their opponent. Naruto's version was his aura, the natural power that all beings naturally excluded, wrapping around Hashirama's and Madara's own. This caused Hashirama and Madara to feel the same feeling a wolf feels in the presence of their alpha on a smaller scale. Both Hashirama and Madara were feeling compelled to listen to him, like a pack of wolves to their alpha. When he was sure they were listening to him, Naruto spoke, his tone of voice enforcing how serious he was. "When I'm training you both, I expect several things. This is non-negotiable." Naruto's voice implied that there would be no compromise. "When I'm training you, you do what I say when I say it. You never use anything I show you to enslave the free will of another being. Both of you are to tell no one of me. You training or each other. If anyone finds out about our training, I will stop." What was visible of Naruto's eyes softened behind his blindfold. "One day, I will no longer be your sensei, and you two will no longer be my students. On that day, I wish for both of you to strive for peace." Naruto held up his hand as he saw that Hashirama had opened his mouth. "No, I will not be telling you how to find peace, Hashirama. That is for the two of you to agree upon, but remember this, is peace worth the price that must be paid to get there? If you follow my rules, then I will train you both, but break them." Naruto's voice hardened, becoming as cold as ice. "And I break you. If there is one thing I hate, it is those that go back on their word. So both of you decide right now. Are you will to become my pupils, knowing the terms to this agreement?" "Yes," Hashirama answered. He had thought over Naruto's conditions and come to the conclusion that he wouldn't have done anything that would have violated the set rules anyway. Maybe the when I'm training you, you do what I say when I say it rule, but that was because you like to be annoying. He wondered about Madara though, he couldn't speak for him, and wondered what his spiky-haired friend would do, but he was confident that he would accept. Both Madara and himself would make the world a better place. They would make it so children could be children instead of fighters. The world would become how it was meant to. I accept. Madara gave his answer before asking his own question. You still didn't answer how you could fight if you're blind. The Uchiha pointed out. Madara knew that as soon as he saw the blind man's skill that he would agree to Naruto's request and become the man's student. The power that the man had would make him get stronger, and with Hashirama, they would find peace. It was only a matter of how strong and influential both himself and Hashirama got. He would use his power to bring peace to the world, and keep his little brother safe from the horrors of war. Good. Naruto smiled. He was finally fulfilling Hagoromo's wish and helping his descendants onto the right path. Perhaps Hashirama and Madara could change the rest of their clan, perhaps they wouldn't, but at least Naruto could now say he tried. To answer your question, Madara, I spread my chakra out, so that it encompasses a large area. As objects move inside that area, images are sent back into my brain, creating a black and white image of the area inside the area, allowing me to see without seeing. Madara and Hashirama didn't need to know that he wasn't blind. That would raise questions that would make him uncomfortable. Since it's only just past midday, you two are going to do some sparring, so I can identify the flaws in your styles. Both of you ready? Naruto questioned. Hashirama turned to Madara and settled into a fighting stance with a small smile on his face. Come on Madara, let's go. The Senju exclaimed. He really wanted to test out how strong he was against his friend, and this was the best time to do it. Madara also settled into a fighting stance at his new sensei's words, a smirk on his face in contrast to Hashirama's smile. Let's dance, Hashirama. The Uchiha said. You could feel the underlying excitement in his voice. The Uchiha clan heir knew that Hashirama would be his rival, the one that would make him better himself, the one that would make him want to go that little bit further during training. It would be Hashirama that give him an added drive to get stronger. Begin. Naruto shouted as he watched the two rush each other, exchanging punches and kicks, and then eventually, jutsu. The punch impacted Hashirama's face, while Hashirama's leg found itself buried in the side of Madara's stomach, forcing both of them to skid back along the ground before charging in once more, re-engaging. All the while Naruto watched with a small smile on his face, as he watched his newly acquired pupils battle it out, the fight getting more intense as their rivalry solidified. It was then, Naruto decided, that his two pupils would be the sum of the best fighters in the world. Their names would be written down in the history books, their faces carved into mountains, and their strength would be memorized in the eyes of the world as two of the best. Naruto would make sure of that. But Naruto-sensei, Hashirama whined. I want to learn some cool jutsu. Why can't you teach us any? I beat you know heaps and you're keeping it from us. Hashirama finished his whining accusation with a pout. Naruto reined in a sigh. How in Kami's name did he ever think that Hashirama resembled him? There was no way that he was this annoying as a kid. If he was his mother would have beaten it out of him. Come on sensei, please, please, please. Kami, damn it Hashirama, if you say please one more time, I'm gonna see how far my foot will fit up yours. Madara snapped and as usual, yelled at Hashirama. Naruto was seriously reconsidering teaching these two. After almost 6 months of training with them, Naruto had realized that even though they could be mature, Hashirama and Madara were still children, 11-year-old children to be precise. After 3 months of training, Hashirama had asked the question that Naruto was waiting for. When are we going to be learning some super awesome jutsu? Of course, Naruto didn't know any jutsu, but didn't tell Hashirama or Madara that as the two might drop him as their sensei. Naruto then told the two that he wasn't going to teach them any jutsu, but instead teach them how to become more connected to their element, or elements in the case of his two pupils. Madara became a bit disgruntled about not learning any jutsu from his new sensei, before Naruto told both him and Hashirama that if they wanted, they could learn jutsu on their own, and then share it between each other. Both boys had instantly agreed to the plan, and started to secretly give the other jutsus from their clan archives, not that the other knew. Hashirama gave Madara jutsu that involved fire and lightning, while the Senju heir got water and earth jutsus from the Uchiha heir. Hashirama then had to train his Kekkei Genkai, Milkurjin. Madara was shocked that his rival had a sub-element, and, deciding to try to even the field, started to learn about the other three nature transformations, water, earth and wind. Unfortunately, this had not satisfied Hashirama. He had decided that Naruto was keeping super cool jutsu from him and Madara. The Senju had now made it his mission to make Naruto quit being a jutsu hog, and to teach him and Madara awesome super cool massive deluxe jutsu. Of course he hadn't gotten anywhere, but it was really starting to grate on Naruto's nerves. Currently, students and sensei were walking through the northern section of the forest. Naruto had decided to move their training grounds further north, to avoid detection by either the Senju or Uchiha, as their previous grounds were right between the territories of the two clans. I'm sorry Madara. Hashirama sniffed. Naruto was now pinching the bridge of his nose. Why did Hashirama have to go from annoying to almost crying in a second? It made telling when the kid was actually sad a pain in the arse. I'll spend the rest of my life paying you back for the horrible travesty I have caused. Great, now there was a dark cloud over his head. Naruto decided that he needs to hit something real hard, real soon. I just hope you don't use me as a sex slave. Oh great. I am not gay, you asshole. Madara screamed in retaliation. Hashirama really succeeded in annoying Madara. Maybe him and Hashirama really were similar. I noticed you have an interest in assholes. Hashirama replied with a small smile, mentally sniggering at his rival. Naruto had to shake his head at the comment. Screw being similar, Hashirama was his illegitimate child. Madara was about to start yelling again when a massive amount of oppressive chakra slammed into the three of them. Of course, to Naruto it was nothing, like comparing an ant to a giant. To Madara and Hashirama, however, it was the largest and most malicious chakra they had felt in their young lives. They had been into battle, yet both of them had never felt any kind of chakra like this. It made their skin crawl just standing near the edge of the source. Whatever was releasing this chakra was incredibly powerful, and it made both boys weary of moving forward. Both turned to their sensei, but were shocked to see him standing as if malicious chakra was an everyday occurrence. Both clan heirs missed their teacher's narrowed eyes. Naruto recognized this chakra. It was the chakra of Shikaku, otherwise known as the Chibi, One Tails. Naruto didn't know what it was doing in Fire Country, seeing as its home was the deserts of Wind Country, but judging by the amount of demonic chakra the Biju was releasing, it wasn't for a stroll through the woods. Over the millennia, Naruto had several interactions with each of the Biju, some of them friendly, some of them less than pleasant. After the death of Hagoromo, a few of the tailed beasts resented him for, in their opinion, not doing enough to save his brother. The death of their father figure had been a major blow to all of the large animals. Their situation was similar to a child losing their father. Naruto had tried to help them, seeing as Hagoromo had considered them like his children, but many refused his help or company. Shikaku was one of them. The One Tails had become short-tempered over the years. Kurama's belief that the more tails one had, the stronger, and humanity's belief that the Biju were mindless animals or evil demons, had made Shikaku become slightly unstable. The Chibi had started to attack villages over the years as its mental state deteriorated. This usually resulted in Naruto having to intervene if he was in the area. Naruto theorized that the Chibi might just attack villages to get his attention, as the Tanuki would always grin like a lunatic when he showed up. Naruto didn't know whether to be disturbed that it thought attacking people was the right way to get attention or sad, because it looked forward to seeing someone that it was meant to hate. Naruto-sensei, what's happening? Madara questioned, doing the best he could to keep the apprehension out of his voice. Naruto said nothing. Instead he motioned with his hands for both himself and Hashirama to follow him. Moving forward, Naruto leapt at a tree using chakra to stick his feet to the bark, his students following his movements. The white-eyed man then ran up the tree, going to the top to get a better view. Naruto halted near the top of the tree, coming to a stop on a branch, his students landing beside him a second later. The tree was tall, giving the three people perched on its branches a view that traveled several kilometers into the distance, and it also gave the group of three a view over the source of the disturbance. The giant Tanuki made of sand was wetting through a small town a kilometer or two away, firing off bullets of air at the building around it, destroying them and the people that took shelter inside. The Tanuki was hundreds of meters tall and towered over trees and buildings alike, crushing many of them as it walked but continued walking as if it had stepped on an ant. The black markings all over its body gave the Tanuki a demonic look, which was only reinforced by the occasional roar it let out as it demolished the town. The tail protruding from its behind flattened anything in its path as it was swung from side to side. Its voice could be heard even from the distance the trio were from the tailed beast. Come on, don't run away. I haven't even squished you yet. The Tanuki said in glee as it continued to trample through the civilian town. Each step it took invoked screams of terror in the town's residents below. Naruto assessed the situation. Shikaku was waiting for him, that much was obvious. It wasn't using its Bijidama, tailed beast ball, to simply level the village in one go as it would have, if it was serious about destroying this small town. His only option was to confront Shikaku, and either convinces the One Tail to stop or take it down, and transport it away from the civilian population. Madara, Hashirama. Naruto snapped, shocking the two boys out of their staring. Neither of them had ever seen a tailed beast before. The sight of one, even though it was the weakest of them all, was still a monumental occasion for both of them. Even though neither one of the boys had seen one, they had heard stories about them from their clan's veteran shinobi and elders. Each story spoke of the power to decimate hundreds of shinobi, as if they were flies on hot summer's day. Both of Hagoromo's descendants turned towards their sensei as they awaited orders. Both of you are to stay here while I deal with the Chibi. Madara and Hashirama were shocked for a moment when they heard what their sensei planned on doing. He was talking about fighting a tailed beast. Even the Chibi, the weakest of the nine, had the power to level an entire clan's worth of shinobi. Their sensei was planning on fighting that. Madara was the first to find his voice. Sensei, you cannot be serious, he said, gaining Naruto's attention. You are planning on fighting the One Tail, something with enough power to destroy hundreds of shinobi. I do not doubt your skills, but don't you think this might be taking it too far? Madara finished with his voice straining a bit, trying to carry across the seriousness of the situation. Because apparently his sensei didn't realize what he planned on doing. Naruto gave a small chuckle before turning to look back at the Ōtsuki, who had stopped rampaging for the moment and appeared to be admiring its work. I know both of you doubt my skills as a sensei, Naruto said, ignoring the denials coming from both Hashirama and Madara. He continued. I know that because I am blind, Naruto mentally made air quotes when he said the word. And because I haven't taught you any jutsu, that both of you have started to doubt me as a sensei. Do not both trying to deny this, I know it is true. His pupils said nothing to deny the claims, because they couldn't. They had started to doubt his skills ever since he hadn't taught them jutsus. If it wasn't for the fact that they had experienced how strong he was beforehand, they would have resigned as his students on the spot. Because of this, I have decided that both of you must see how powerful I truly am, if I want to keep you both permanently as my students. The two students were shocked. Their sensei was going to single-handedly going to fight a tailed beast to prove how strong he was to them. Before either of them could respond, Naruto continued. I will also tell you both the reason why I can't teach you jutsu after this is over. Naruto was originally not going to tell them that he could do jutsu, which was true to an extent, but Shikaku's intervention provided an opportunity to get that roadblock out of the way. If he told them that he could use jutsu after defeating the One Tail, it would seem like a small trade-off to his two students. While their sensei couldn't use jutsu, he could single-handedly defeat the One Tails. He highly doubted that his two pupils would drop him as their sensei just after he defeated Shikaku, and it would prevent them from finding out later down the road. Hashirama was the one that objected this time. Naruto-sensei, you don't have to. Hashirama was silenced as Naruto held up his hand, as a sign to stop speaking. I will return, Hashirama, don't worry about that. Naruto gave a little smirk. Remember, stay here and watch closely, this is something that you won't forget. With that, Naruto leapt of the branch and towards Shikaku, who had now continued trampling the village. This is all our fault. Madara moaned as he sat down on the branch with his head in his hands. If we hadn't valued jutsu so much, Naruto-sensei wouldn't be doing this, Madara said with guilt in his voice. Hashirama said nothing, but also sat down on the branch alongside his brother. What was there to say? They had just sentenced their sensei to death, albeit unintentionally. They watched as their sensei neared the town, traveling closer as he hopped from tree to tree, before finally he leapt out of the cover that the forest roof provided, jumping straight towards the belly of the Biju, his arm held back ready for a punch. Both of Naruto's students felt their guts sink. They wanted to tear their eyes away from seeing their sensei get turned into pulp, but they couldn't. As they watched their sensei close the distance between human and Biju, getting closer and closer, neither boy could tear their eyes away. They would later be glad. Because what would happen next would stay with Hashirama and Madara for the rest of their lives, as one of the most amazing thing they had ever seen. Naruto, their sensei, punched the Ōtsuki square in the stomach with enough force to cause a shockwave to echo throughout the area, with both Hashirama and Madara feeling a blast of air rush over them, shaking the tree they were perched on. The Biju was lifted off the ground by the resulting force, and flung several hundred or so meters away. The One Tail landed with a boom as it skidded across the ground, demolishing trees. Both clan heirs watched in shock at the power of their sensei, the one who had just punched the Ōtsuki with strength that nobody should possess. Madara, Hashirama muttered softly, staring at the recovering form of the Ōtsuki. If I ever doubt the power of sensei again, please punch me in the face. Madara didn't look towards Hashirama, instead he responded with a request of his own. Only if you do the same for me. Madara replied. Deal. Hashirama agreed. Deal. Madara repeated. When the Ōtsuki finally recovered, it looked around searching for the one who hit it. Though it knew who it was, there was no one in the elemental nations with the strength to rival him. Oh Naruto, the One Tail sang in its mind. Come out wherever you are. Normally, Shikaku would have stayed in Wind Country, preferring the desert to the forests of Fire Country, but it was a little bit lonely, and while they never actually talked, it preferred the company of Naruto to no one. The white-haired man's presence reminded him of father, and the last Ōtsutsuki was the only human in the world that treated the Biju as more than monsters. A small flash of white out of the corner of its eye drew the One Tail's attention. Reacting quickly, the Ōtsuki spun around with speed that it shouldn't have at the size it was, and fired a compressed ball of air that crashed into a small pile of trees. The ball of wind exploded with incredible force, leveling trees 100 meters around the impact zone, and knocking over several more with the force of the explosion. The Ōtsuki didn't relax its guard. It knew that was nowhere near enough to defeat its foe. In fact, that attack probably barely fazed Naruto. The man had millennia of experience with Shikaku's attacks. Sure enough, Shikaku felt a small source of repressed chakra creeping up behind him. Got you now. Quick as a flash, the Ōtsuki spun around and swung its tail in the direction of the chakra source, leveling trees as its tail scrapped against the ground. The tail collided with the area and kept going as Shukaku turned around to face where the chakra last was, only to find the area empty except for uprooted trees that came into contact with its tail. Looking around warily, the weakest of the tailed beasts failed to notice the passenger that it had picked up on its tail, hanging onto the end of the single tail. Naruto held on waiting for the right moment to strike. That moment came when Shukaku had relaxed a bit and lowered its tail to the ground. The moment that Naruto's feet touched the ground, he utilized his enhanced strength and flipped Shukaku's tail over his shoulder. The reaction was a roar of pain and surprise from the one tail, as its tail was yanked and it was pulled backwards, off the ground before it slammed back down, rolling a bit before it came to a halt. The chibi was about to get back up and regain its footing, so that it could get back into the fight with Naruto, when it felt the man land on his nose and look directly into his eyes. Shukaku was nervous when Naruto continued to stare. After a minute, despite wanting to fight Naruto, it knew that the long-lived man was way above its level in both power and skill. It only really enjoyed Naruto's company, and would rather they actually talk than fight. So the serious stare that Naruto pinned it under was quite uncomfortable. The one tail was about to comment before Naruto broke of the stare, and gave Shukaku a small smile under softer eyes. "If you want," the white-haired man said. "We could talk every now and then instead of fighting." The Biju was shocked for a moment. Did Naruto see through the reason for his attacks? He was about to reject Naruto's proposition when the man in question spoke. "I know the reason for your attacks, Shukaku. If you want company, all you had to do was ask. So, would you like for us to talk instead of fighting?" Naruto asked again, his voice hiding no hidden agendas, no malicious intent or other reasons for putting forward the question. With hesitancy, the large tanuki nodded its head. Naruto's smile grew a little larger before he spoke again to the tanuki. "I can visit you later today if you want, but your little excursion to the village made me interrupt something that I need to continue. So, if you go back to Wind Country, I'll visit you there by the end of the day," Naruto said with a smile that grew bigger when he saw the happiness in the Biju's eyes, though Naruto had to make his voice keep the same light tone when he talked about the tanuki's excursion. Naruto had long since stopped calling the Biju on the little value they place on human life. They all answered with the same response when he did. "If they can do it to themselves, then why can I do it to them?" Naruto still didn't have a response to that. The Biju found it hard to hold human life with any sort of value, after millennia of them killing each other, and eventually they all developed the mentality of "if they can do it, why can't I?" They all basically thought that since humans could kill each other with such little consequences, then why couldn't they? After all, there were plenty of them. Naruto had just stopped calling them on it eventually, as he never got anywhere when he did. Naruto leapt off the giant sand tanuki as it lifted itself up, and started to move itself quickly in the direction of the deserts of Wind Country. Apparently his visit is going to mean more to Shukaku than he first realized. When he was sure that the Biju was making his way to the land of wind, Naruto then started to make his way back to where he left Hashirama and Madara. Hopefully the two of them hadn't moved from the position in which he left them. It took him all of 5 minutes to reach the branch where he left the clan heirs, and the moment he landed he was bombarded with questions from both sides. Naruto simply stood there with a small smile on his face as he watched the two of them, especially Madara. The Uchiha, while not as aloof as the rest of his clan, was normally composed unless Hashirama provoked him, so it was quite funny to watch the clan heir slowly get red in the face, as kept firing off questions instead of breathing. "Calm down you two." Both heirs still continued to shoot off questions. "Calm down," Naruto said a bit more forcefully. The questions continued, and Naruto developed a tick mark on his forehead. "Shut up, brats." Finally that seemed to quiet the two of them down. "I know the two of you have questions, but let's first sit somewhere a bit more comfortable." With that, Naruto leapt off into the forest with his two pupils after him, who were both struggling not to shoot off questions. The trio stopped on top of a large plateau that rested on the border of the Uchiha and Senju clans. The view they had from the top was amazing. All three of them could see several kilometers out into the wilderness of the Land of Fire, which was just one massive forest. As soon as the trio landed, Naruto held up his hand to stop the barrage of questions he knew was going to come, before he then spoke to his two pupils. "I know the two of you have questions, so you all get to ask them one at a time, starting with Hashirama." Naruto gestured to the Mokuton user. Madara was a bit peeved at not being able to ask his question first, but settled down quickly. "How did you do that?" Hashirama questioned immediately. This was followed by another question accompanied by puppy dog eyes. "Can you teach me, please?" The Sur's descendant battered his eyes at the white-haired man, in an attempt to get him to agree. His work was for naught when his sensei spoke his next words. "Keep dreaming, Hashirama. Not only do you not have what is required to use it in the first place, but I don't think the world can take you having enhanced strength." Naruto shot down his student's plea in a heartbeat. There was nothing Kami or his brother could do that would make him give Hashirama Senju his secret to enhanced strength. It would spell doom for everyone. And what did I do? Hagoromo's brother knew what Hashirama was talking about, but just wanted to mess with him for the sake of it. Hashirama sat on the ground with a small rain cloud over his head, and therefore didn't hear his sensei's answer for his first question. Madara did though. You know what Hashirama is talking about, Naruto-sensei, the Uchiha heir said. How did you manage to not only punch a Biju and lift it off the ground, but also beat it? Madara stared into his sensei's eyes as he asked his questions. Naruto simple gave Madara a small smile. That's quite simple, Madara. What I did was called. Naruto paused for effect, and watched as Madara leaned forward slightly, as did Hashirama from his seated position, rain cloud gone. Actually, I don't think I ever named it. A simultaneous crash was heard as both Madara and Hashirama tipped forward and face planted into the ground. Both quickly kicked up and were about to yell at their sensei when he answered the question seriously. I never named the technique I use when I fought the Ichibi, Naruto explained, remembering not to use the one-tailed true name. What the technique does is enhances my strength tenfold, allowing me to punch through nearly anything. Naruto paused before he answered the second question. And I beat the Ichibi because it knew I could beat it, the one-tail retreated because it knew it was beat. Naruto quickly made up the lie at the end, and using millennia of experience of lying and being lied to, Naruto made Hagoromo's descendants believe it. Naruto was a bit guilty that he had to lie to his two students, but considered it the lesser of two evils. If he told them the truth, they might consider him crazy. Sensei, Madara interrupted his thinking. You were going to tell us why you couldn't teach us jutsu. Naruto just let off a sigh and sat down with Hashirama, who had finally come out of his depression completely, prompting Madara to do the same. The reason I can't teach you ninjutsu, Naruto had to struggle not to say the word without any venom or loathing, is because I don't know any. He watched and waited for both Madara's and Hashirama's reactions, and wasn't disappointed. Both clan heirs had looks of shock and disbelief on their faces. It was Hashirama surprisingly who snapped out of their trance first. What do you mean you don't know any ninjutsu, sensei? Can you not perform them, or do you just not know any? The Senju heir inquired. It is exactly what it means, Hashirama. Naruto responded. Unlike the two of you, I never had any shinobi in my family, and therefore never learned any elemental jutsus. This was a half-lie. Naruto didn't know any. The two have most likely never heard of someone that can utilize elemental attacks without hand seals like he does. So you're saying you don't come from a shinobi clan of any kind? Madara prodded. When Naruto nodded his head in confirmation, both Senju and Uchiha heirs let out what they thought was an unnoticeable sigh of relief, though Naruto caught the action. While he was shocked that both children trusted him so easily, Naruto was happy that both of them trusted him enough to take his words as fact. The Senju and Uchiha clans both had enemies. Naruto saying that he wasn't from any clan meant that he, most likely, wasn't going to kill Hashirama nor Madara. This was excellent news for both clan heirs, as they highly doubted they could take down Naruto, especially after his last display of power. I have one announcement, Madara, Hashirama. Naruto said, causing Hagoromo's descendants to turn their gazes to him. I have decided to stop training you every time we meet. This caused both Hashirama and Madara to give their sensei a questioning look. They didn't train 7 days a week or even 5. The trio trained 4 days a week, giving the two students plenty of time to rest, while helping to avoid attention from their respective clans. Starting from today, I will only train you both 3 days a week, while giving you both the 4th day to train together. This is to give you both a chance to bond and a sense of independence, while I'm not there, as well as giving you some experience in training yourself. However, I will drop by at random to observe you both, and how you train. This was actually true. Naruto did want both Hashirama and Madara to bond without him there, and he felt that his presence prevented the two clan heirs from connecting on a deeper level. On this 4th day, Naruto was just going to observe them both to see how they were doing, and to see if they could operate without his help. Can I trust you both to train without my supervision? Yes, sensei, was the response from the two boys. Good, Naruto said, giving the two of them a smile. If that is all the questions for now, I will let the two of you begin your training. Remember, thought. No flashy techniques and keep it quiet, was the simultaneous response from both boys. Good, Naruto said again. See you both tomorrow. With that, Naruto leapt away in the direction of Wind Country, leaving two boys to ponder what they were going to do. Hey Madara. Hashirama broke the silence. You remember how when we met Sensei, how the two of us were talking about keeping children out of fighting and all that? He received a nod from the spiky-haired boy. Hashirama gave Madara a smile as he continued. Well, I got this great idea. The idea is basically a whole bunch of clans and civilians come together in order to create a village of some kind. The Land of Wind was a series of deserts that was roughly between the size of the Land of Fire and the Land of Lightning. Despite the majority of the country being covered in sand, the country has a surprisingly large population that was focused in towns or villages around on the many oases in the deserts. The deserts to the far west of the country were considered cursed or evil, due to the fact the Ichibi roamed the area, manipulating the vast seas of sand to swallow any unwary adventurer that wanders too close to its domain. Occasionally, the Biju would wander out of its home in search of prey, though the Biju doesn't actually eat or drink for that matter. It enjoys a good battle every now and then. It was in a cave, dug into the sand, where Naruto found Shikaku. The one tail was flicking its tail from side to side, a sign of agitation when Naruto appeared. The instant the last Ōtsutsuki appeared, the Biju snapped its head towards the entrance of the cave where Naruto was standing, its body tensed in case Naruto attacked. It relaxed though when its visitor sat down on the ground at the entrance of the cave. Both man and tailed beasts stared at each other for a moment before Naruto broke the silence with a question for the giant San Tanuki. So Shikaku, how have you been these last few centuries? Naruto asked in a light tone as to not startle the one tail. The Biju looked at Naruto for a minute before sighing, though the sigh came out as more of a light, yet loud, grunt due to Shikaku's size. I have been well, Oji-san. What about you? Shikaku's voice wasn't a deep guttural tone like most would expect. It was actually similar to that of a young teenage boy, but due to the Biju's size, there was a deep tone added to it. It was strange though, despite the fact that none of the tailed beasts having had any sort of set gender, many of them sounded and acted either male or female. Some of the Biju even changed genders over the millennia, since they had been born. I have been good to Shikaku. Naruto said before the name he was called caught up with him, and he developed a small tick mark on his forehead. Why do you Biju seem to find calling me uncle so important that you never actually call me by my name unless it's serious? This was quite annoying for Naruto. For some reason the Biju, or at least those he was on speaking terms with, found it necessary to address him as uncle every time they met. Shikaku gave Naruto a grin, showing off several pointy teeth that were housed in its mouth before replying. Because you are and it's funny. The one tail said with snigger at his Oji-san, who was currently mumbling under his breath about ungrateful brats. Naruto grumbled for several more moments about being called uncle, before he turned back to Shikaku, who was still sniggering. Naruto reined in his own irritation and addressed the giant Tanuki. Have you met up with any of the others recently? Naruto inquired, hoping to find out how his nieces and nephews were doing. That might have been the wrong thing to ask, as the Tanuki immediately stopped sniggering and became a little sad, resting on its stomach with its hands under its head like a pillow, which was an unusual position for a creature that had the power to decimate hundreds with ease. No? Shikaku muttered. Its voice was soft, but the cave made it echo. The last of them that I came into contact with was Kaguya around 100 years ago. Since then I haven't come into contact with anyone. The chibi replied sadly, and Naruto couldn't help but give the tailed beast a sad smile as well. It must have been tough for Shikaku, having to be alone for so long. Naruto got up and walked towards the Biju that was still lying down. Shikaku tensed slightly as Naruto approached. The white-haired man raised his hand and placed it at the Biju's nose, rubbing the area slightly. Shikaku relaxed at the touch. Naruto's familiar chakra helped calm the Biju, and it relaxed into the touch. I am sorry Shikaku. For not visiting you, for not checking on you, I am sorry Shikaku. Naruto apologized to the Biju while continuing to rub the nose of the one tail. From now on I'll visit you, weekly if you want. I see how you're doing and we can talk, spar, whatever it is you want Shikaku. Naruto continued to apologize to Shikaku, who was basking in Naruto's touch. It felt so nice to have someone who cared about you, that wanted you, someone that was family. So Shikaku, Naruto said, breaking the one tail out of its thoughts. What do you want to do today? The Tanuki thought it over for several minutes before deciding. Talk. The chibi requested. Naruto simply gave a nod and moved back before sitting down on the sand. What were you doing when we met earlier? The Biju asked its Oji-san. I was training my students. Naruto explained. Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. Senju and Uchiha. The Biju said with confusion in its voice. Last I heard those two clans hated each other. Why would they allow their children near someone of the other clan? And how did you get the family heads to agree to let you train them? Why would you train them anyway? Shikaku asked. It was confusing. All of the Biju knew that their stepbrothers had fought after their father's death, and that their descending clans hated each other. So how would Naruto get the two clans to not only let them train together, but to let him train them? All I'm training are the two kids, and neither of their clans knows that they're getting training from me. The two kids I'm training don't know the other's last name either. Naruto explained to Shikaku. The Tanuki nodded in understanding. Neither clan knew that someone from their clan was getting training with the other. That made a whole lot more sense as to why their families would let them train with someone from the opposing clan. You still didn't say why you were training them. Shikaku pointed out. Naruto gave the one tail a sad smile before answering. Hagoromo, on his deathbed, asked me to look out for his sons and their descendants, to help them find the right path. Up until recently, I'd never gotten a good enough chance to be able to help anyone from either clan. Naruto explained. Shikaku didn't speak for several minutes, just soaking in what his father had asked Naruto to do. It seemed like an almost impossible task if someone looked at the history of the two clans. They had been fighting, for one reason or another, since they had first been created. Anyone else would have given up. Hell, Naruto should have given up. But something was making him continue, making him not losing hope in the two clans. He gave Tusen his word. The Biju realized. That must be why Naruto still continued to help the Senju and Uchiha, even when most would have given up, branding both clans as hopeless cases. Naruto valued someone's word, their honor above everything, even strength. This had only increased when Naruto was betrayed by his brother, who had put his goals over his family, and essentially stabbed Naruto in the back. He is too noble for his own good. It should be thought. So Shikaku, got any new moves that you made over the years? Naruto said, interrupting the Biju's thoughts. The Biju nodded and went into detail about how it found new ways to utilize his sand in battle. The conversation went on for hours, until the sun finally set and Naruto bid Shikaku goodbye, promising that they would meet again in a week's time. As Naruto traveled back to Fire Country, he could only ponder how long his streak of apparent good luck would last. He'd started to fulfill his promise to Hagoromo and made up with Shikaku. Naruto could only wonder how long his luck would last, before it all came crashing down. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.